Welcome back, everyone, to the Wisdom of Laozi.
Great to be back.
Today, we're diving into something complex, maybe even a bit paradoxical. This idea of succeeding through, well, restraint. We're heading deep into Lao Tzu's world, chapter 29, the sacred vessel.
Yeah, and to really get a handle on chapter 29, we actually need to rewind a bit back to chapter 5 and that really evocative metaphor of the bellows.
Right, the blacksmith's shop. You can almost feel the heat, see the fire.
Exactly. Imagine that scene 2,000 years ago. The fire's roaring, the blacksmith's working, and what's feeding that fire? The bellows. Lao Tzu grabs this very practical tool to explain, well, basically, how the universe works.
And the key thing about the bellows, the reason it works so well, it's the empty space inside, isn't it?
That's it, precisely. It works because it's empty. Utility through vacancy. It's all about the rhythm, the inhale, the exhale. Not brute force, not just cramming air in constantly.
So the blacksmith isn't trying to fill it up completely.
No, not at all. He's just making a channel, allowing the air to flow. Prioritizing just enough air to keep the fire burning optimally. That idea, usefulness coming from emptiness, from measured flow, that's the Tao in action.
Okay, so hold that image. The rhythmic bellows, the just enough principle. Now let's jump forward. Think about a modern project war room late at night.
Oh yeah, total contrast. Flashing screens, constant data streams, relentless pressure.
And you hear those demands constantly. Push the output, we need 10% more, raise the target, let's get daily reports, micromanage this thing.
We're all leaning on the bellows hard, trying to force those metrics up. And maybe, for a little while, the curve ticks upward.
But then what happens?
Well, pretty quickly, the whole system, whether it's your supply chain, your team, even your customers, it starts to strain, it gets exhausted, kind of suffocated, it just goes flat.
Because we forgot the basic rule of the bellows. If you press too hard for too long, it can't spring back. You flatten it, the flow stops, the fire dims.
We forget we're dealing with something that has its own life, its own rhythm. It breathes on its own.
And that lands us right at the heart of chapter 29. Lao Tzu looks at the big system we live in, maybe a state, a company, civilization itself, and he calls it the empire. But then he defines it as a sacred vessel.
That's the crucial definition. It's not a machine, not clockwork. It's alive. It's this profound, self-regulating thing with its own pulse.
So if it's a sacred vessel, you can't really own it, can you?
Nope, you can't possess it. You can only steward it, be a caretaker. And that completely flips the script on governance, doesn't it?
Yeah, it shifts from an engineering problem, how do we fix this, to something more like reverence.
Exactly. It's not about applying more force, getting more hands in the gears, clever interference. It's about respecting that natural, self-regulating order, showing reverence for it.
But that respect gets thrown out the window when we hit that really famous warning Lao Tzu gives.
Oh, yes, the iron law. He who handles it harms it. He who grasps it loses it.
Which, to a modern leader who's all about action and results, that sounds a lot like an excuse to just sit back and do nothing.
It sounds like that, but it's actually the opposite of passive. It's a really urgent warning against reckless action. It tells you what not to do, and the advice that follows isn't about retreating.
It's about active self-restraint.
Yes. Active subtraction. Avoid the extreme, the exorbitant, the excessive.
So the wise person, the sage, isn't just stopping. They're regulating the tempo, creating that empty space, like with the bellows.
Allowing the system to heal itself, find its own balance again. It's taking that way of the bellows idea from chapter 5 and applying it directly to how we interact with this sacred vessel in chapter 29.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive then. Exploring how real, lasting utility, good results actually comes back when we stop trying to force things, when that deliberate doing steps aside.
Precisely. Let's see how it unfolds.
Let's start with the text itself. We're using the D.C. Lowe translation of chapter 29.
Right. And just listen to the absolute conviction in these opening lines. This isn't a suggestion. It's presented as, well, cosmic fact. It goes, "Whoever would take the empire and do anything with it, I see he cannot succeed. The empire is a thing sacred, which one should not handle. He who handles it harms it. He who grasps it loses it. For things under heaven go in this way. Some things push forward, some things hang back, some things breathe easy, some things pant and gasp, some things are strong and straight, some things are weak and bent, some things are soft and supple, some things are hard and stiff. Hence the sage avoids the extreme, the exorbitant, the excessive."
Wow, that first sentence is just designed to stop you in your tracks, isn't it? Whoever would take the empire and do anything with it, I see he cannot succeed.
It speaks directly to that ambitious figure, the emperor, the CEO, the revolutionary, who looks at the world like it's just raw material, waiting for their grand plan, their perfect blueprint.
The person who thinks they can just remake everything in their own image.
And Lao Tzu just says, point blank, cannot succeed. Not, it's hard, but impossible.
Yeah.
Because the empire, the world, is a sacred vessel. He uses this ancient phrase, bu kere yu.
What does that mean literally?
It basically means cannot be done anything with. It's not just sacred like holy ground. It's sacred because it's alive. It's a complex, living system with its own intricate life force. Trying to grab it, force it, change it fundamentally, you're guaranteed to break it.
And trying to hold on to it tightly means you lose it immediately.
Inevitably, yeah.
It makes me think of that concept of wu-wei non-action. It isn't just sitting there doing nothing, right? It's more like intelligent non-interference.
That's a great way to put it. And maybe the best, simplest analogy we have for this on a small scale is a house cat.
Ah, the cat analogy. Okay.
You just can't force a cat to love you, can you?
Yeah.
Try chasing it down, grabbing it, forcing it onto your lap. He who grasps it, what happens?
It bolts, hides under the sofa, maybe scratches you. You definitely lose it in that moment.
Exactly. Or try to micromanage its life change, its eating schedule, its sleeping spots, force it to play when it doesn't want to, he who handles it. You just stress it out, harm the relationship, you create chaos.
So the wu-wei approach with the cat is what?
Respectful non-action. You create a safe space. You put out food and water. You respect its boundaries. You're just present. And then when the cat decides, it comes to you, jumps on your lap, starts purring.
You get the affection precisely because you gave up trying to take it.
Bingo. And Lao Tzu's saying the whole world, this massive, complex system, operates on that same principle. You can't force it.
And the reason why you can't force it seems to be laid out in those lines that follow. Some things push forward, some things hang back.
Yeah, that's his description of the world's pulse. It's full of these internal rhythms, tensions, counter movements, constant dynamic flux. Some things breathe easy, some things pant and gasp. It's unpredictable, vibrant.
So trying to slap one single rigid plan onto all of that, it's pointless.
Utterly futile, like trying to catch all the wind in one net, or telling the ocean it's only allowed to have high tide from now on. It just doesn't work that way.
Okay, so if the world is this dynamic sacred vessel you can't force, what does the wise person, the sage, do? They don't just give up, right?
No, not at all. The response isn't surrender. It's highly focused, highly restrained action. Or maybe think of it as active self-purification. The sage focuses on getting rid of the three most dangerous impulses within themselves. DC Lao calls them the three avoidances.
Okay, let's break those down. The first is the extreme, avoiding going too far.
Right. This is about moderation, understanding consequences. The sage knows that any huge, unbalanced action inevitably creates an equally extreme reaction. Push too hard in one direction, the system snaps back just as hard in the other.
So avoiding extremes is about ensuring stability.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
Avoid the wild swings. The second is the exorbitant show, avoiding extravagance.
And that's not just about, like, fancy palaces and gold taps.
No, it's much broader than just material stuff, although that's part of it. It's also about cognitive extravagance. You know, overly inflated ambitions, ridiculously complicated plans, when a simple one would do, grand ideas totally disconnected from reality. It's the wastefulness of unnecessary complexity.
Okay. And the third, avoidance.
The excessive, gay. This is about avoiding that dangerous mindset of complacency and arrogance. It often creeps in right when things are going well.
I've got this all figured out, I'm in complete control feeling.
Exactly that. The sage always maintains a sense of reverence, of humility. They know they're just a temporary steward, not the master. Think of a master surfer. They respect the wave, feel its rhythm, move with it. The amateur tries to dominate the ocean and gets wiped out.
So these three avoidances, extreme, exorbitant, excessive, they're like the sage's active guardrails for navigating the world.
They are. And understanding why these guardrails are so crucial takes us deeper. We need to really investigate the philosophy behind this iron law of failure. Why does handling and grasping inevitably lead to harm and loss?
Okay, let's tackle those core philosophical questions. Where do we start?
Let's start with the absolute foundation, the truth of the world. Why is the empire a sacred vessel? Why can't you just fix it like a machine? Why can't you fix a coral reef with a wrench?
Makes sense. What makes it untouchable, fundamentally?
Well, ancient Chinese thought gives us a few really powerful perspectives on this. First, you've got Wang Bi's metaphysical take.
Okay, Wang Bi, what's his angle?
He basically says the world is sacred because it runs on the tail, this formless, invisible, organizing principle. The Tao operates spontaneously without a fixed plan. So if you try to impose rigid human force, which is fixed, directional, onto this fluid, self-regulating system.
You get a clash, a system crash.
Precisely. The fixed human idea crashes against the formless, spontaneous reality.
Interesting. Okay, who's next?
Then there's He Shengong, and he brings a more humanistic view. He points out the real sacred element. It's the people. Man is the sacred being of the world, he says. And people, left to their own devices, naturally lean towards stillness, simplicity, peace.
But what happens when rulers start imposing lots of rules, lots of active decrees, even with good intentions?
According to He Shengong, it shatters that natural peace. It forces people into complexity, into finding ways around the rules, into deceit just to navigate the system. The government's actions, meant to help, actually become a source of stress and corrosion.
So the doing itself corrupts the natural state.
In this view, yes. And finally, you have Suche's perspective on power. He argues the world itself has a kind of sacred will, an autonomous force. The ruler isn't the master, they're merely a servant of this larger will.
So if a ruler acts like a master, tries to possess the vessel.
They offend that sacred will, and the world pushes back. Resistance is inevitable.
Okay, so putting Wang Bi, He Shengong, and Suche together, what's the synthesis?
You get Lao Tzu's incredibly advanced systems theory. The world, a nation, an ecosystem, a company, isn't a simple machine. It's a sacred, organic, self-regulating, complex adaptive system.
Which brings us back to that coral reef analogy. You can't fix a reef with a blueprint and tools.
Right. It thrives through billions of tiny, interconnected, self-driven actions. It's a living community. If you charge in with some big top-down intervention plan, thinking you can re-engineer it,
you'll likely trigger a collapse because you treated a living network like a predictable machine.
That's the fundamental category error that Lao Tzu warns against. Handlers and graspers make this mistake all the time. They look at complex, adaptive things, societies, families, markets, and treat them like they're simple, predictable mechanisms. And the ancient texts confirm this path leads to absolute impossibility of success. It's not just hard, it fundamentally misunderstands reality.
Okay, that clearly explains the sacredness and why handling is problematic. Let's move to the consequence, the iron law of failure. He who handles it harms it, he who grasps it loses it. Why is failure so baked into this forceful approach? Let's do the autopsy.
Wang Bia, again, gives us a key philosophical insight here. He says, forceful intervention violates two fundamental properties of how things work, of the Tao. First, it violates spontaneity, Weisheng.
Spontaneity.
Yeah, everything has its own natural way of operating, its own internal momentum. If you try to forcibly divert that, like trying to dam a huge river with your bare hands, you might hold it back for a bit, but you're just building up pressure for an inevitable catastrophic flood later on.
Okay, so you can't fight the natural flow. What's the second violation?
It violates constant flux Winglai Liubian. The world is always changing, flowing, moving between states. Nothing stays fixed. So if you use rigid human power to try and permanently fix something in place, like demanding the economy must grow exactly 5% every single quarter no matter what.
Reality will eventually assert itself. The system will snap back.
Exactly. Artificial rigidity always breaks when faced with dynamic reality.
Well, hang on. Surely sometimes force is needed? I mean, if there's chaos and violence, doesn't a leader need to step in forcefully to establish some kind of order?
That's the critical tension, isn't it? Lao Tzu isn't necessarily arguing against any structure or any intervention. He's warning against obsessive maximalist interference driven by ego and a desire for total control. And the go-to historical case study for this, cited by commentators like the Ming monk Han de Qing, is the Qin dynasty.
Ah, Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor, the ultimate handler.
Absolutely. He's the poster child. He standardized everything, writing, weights, measures, even the width of card axles. He was the ultimate social engineer, burning books, burying scholars alive, trying to force an entire civilization into his perfect, rigid mold. He saw the sacred vessel as just clay for him to shape.
That's definitely handling it. And was he a grasper too?
Oh, massively. Extravagant palaces, obsessed with finding immortality, treating the entire empire as his personal property, meant to last 10,000 generations. He grasped with an iron fist, believing he could possess and control the very life force of China.
And the result?
Total collapse. That seemingly invincible, hyper-controlled empire crumbled into chaos in the blink of an eye, literally just a few years after his death. It's the starkest, bloodiest historical validation of Lao Tzu's iron law. It proves that immense force might conquer, but it absolutely cannot sustain.
So the autopsy shows What's the pathology here?
Two clear things. First, the arrogance of the handler. They ignore reality, ignore human nature, treat the world like a lab for their personal theories. It always leads to suffering and often their own downfall. Second, the greed of the grasper. They see the world as something to own and exploit. This breeds corruption, resentment, and eventually the rebellion that consumes them.
So real power, lasting influence comes from what?
Yeah,
Accord.
service.
Yes, a flowing with, serving the natural order, not trying to dominate and possess it. The Qin emperor grasped and lost everything. The sage, by letting go, finds harmony.
And this isn't just for emperors. It applies to anyone in a position of influence. A manager, a parent, anyone trying to control a system. Force the culture, you kill the culture.
Okay, we've seen why handling fails. Now let's look at the vessel itself, that description. Some things push forward, some things hang back. You called it the world's pulse. But is it a healthy pulse or a sign of sickness? This is our third question. Symphony or medical report?
It's a fascinating duality in the interpretation. The mainstream view, held by folks like Wang Mang and Su Che, sees this as a picture of healthy, natural rhythm.
Meaning the diversity is good.
Yes. The world needs diversity to be vital. It needs things that push and things that hang back, strong and weak, fast and slow. It's like a symphony orchestra. You need all the different instruments, different tempos, the interplay, the counterpoint to make beautiful music. Trying to make every instrument play the exact same note at the same volume would be awful, destructive.
So in this view, the hanging back isn't failure, it's necessary balance.
It's ballast, stability, patience. If everything pushed forward relentlessly, the whole system would tear itself apart instantly.
Okay, that makes sense. But you said there's another view, a subversive one.
There is. Scholars like Zhang Jing offer a reading that sees these lines not as health, but as pathological reaction, a kind of critical diagnosis of a system that's already been pushed too hard, manipulated too much.
Yeah, the pushing and pulling isn't harmony, it's stress.
It's the system oscillating violently because it's been overstretched like a rubber band about to snap. When you see extreme pushing followed by extreme holding back, that's not healthy diversity. It's a sign of pathology, of backlash.
Songjing had that insight about intention begetting the opposite.
Yes, that's key. You try too hard to push forward with some grand reform, and the system reacts violently, dragging you backward through all sorts of unintended consequences. Or you try too hard to force warmth and connection in a relationship, and the very effort feels artificial, desperate, that pant and gasp quality, and it actually pushes people away.
So is it a symphony or a pathology? Which is it?
I think the most sensible answer is that it's a spectrum. Natural, gentle diversity is the symphony. But when you intervene excessively, when you try to force one element like speed or growth or control to the extreme, you push the system into a state of pathological oscillation as it desperately tries to find balance again.
Okay, so if that oscillation is the potential disease state, then the prescription makes perfect sense. Hence, the sage avoids the extreme, the exorbitant, the excessive.
It's the direct cure. It's the ultimate act of self-regulation and system stabilization achieved by subtraction, not addition.
And this avoidance isn't just an abstract idea. It seems to operate on different levels: personal, cognitive, political.
Absolutely. Let's break that down. On the personal level, it's about self-healing. Gong talked about removing excessive sensual pleasures, material desires, the trappings of court life to clear the mind and spirit.
How does that translate today? We don't have court ostentation, mostly.
Well, Professor Fu Perron talks about it as a vital subtraction defense mechanism for modern life. We're drowning in information, consumerism, endless demands on our attention. So, consciously reducing unnecessary desires, filtering the noise, saying no to too many social things, that's how you treat the anxiety of overload. It's about reclaiming your inner space by subtracting the clutter.
Less complexity imported equals more calm internally. Makes sense. What about the cognitive level?
This is about healing the mind, clearing out mental clutter. Wang Mang said the sage must remove the cause of delusion, get rid of the source of confusion.
What does that mean practically?
It means getting rid of overly complicated rituals, pointlessly harsh rules, rigid dogmas, anything that boxes in thinking and prevents natural, intuitive understanding. The sage isn't adding more laws. They're like a gardener, pulling out the weeds of bad thinking, the thorns of bureaucracy that choke creativity and common sense, an intellectual clarifier.
Okay, personal, cognitive. Then there's the political level.
Right, healing the state. Su Che linked this directly to preventing collapse after success. He used the I Ching, the Thai hexagram, which symbolizes perfect harmony. The warning is the moment of greatest success is also the moment of greatest danger.
Why? Complacency sets in.
Exactly.
At the peak, leaders are most tempted to become arrogant, excessive, push through radical new policies, extreme, or indulge in luxury, exorbitant. The sage's job, especially during good times, is constant vigilance against these impulses, proactively treating the illness before it appears by continually practicing subtraction.
So by practicing these three avoidances across all levels, what does the sage ultimately achieve?
They achieve what the poet Keats called negative capability, that ability to exist within uncertainties, mysteries, doubts, without that irritable reaching after fact and reason, without needing to constantly interfere and control. The sage's non-action, their restraint, actively protects the space for society, for a team, for a family, to self-organize, to breathe, to find its own way.
We've really laid out the theory. The sacred vessel, the danger of handling, the iron law, the prescription of avoidance. Now let's ground this. We need a real-world story, a cautionary tale. You mentioned the idealist ruler earlier.
Yes, this is so important because it shows how even the best intentions can go wrong with the wrong method. We're not talking about a cruel despot here. Often this figure in history is a genuine idealist, maybe well-read in philosophy, truly wanting to create a better, fairer society, a utopia even.
That their methods.
Their methods are pure handling, forceful, top-down, sweeping reforms based on abstract ideals, completely ignoring the messy reality on the ground. Think about things like suddenly nationalizing all farmland based on some ancient theoretical model, or establishing state monopolies on vital goods like salt or iron, believing the state can manage it better.
Sounds like a recipe for disruption.
Huge disruption. And another classic move is frequent drastic currency reforms, issuing new coins, recalling old ones constantly, thinking you can just decree economic stability from the palace.
What's the fundamental flaw in that approach?
The flaw is ignoring the sacred vessel aspect, ignoring complex social dynamics, economic laws, basic human psychology, ingrained customs. The ruler tries to hammer the living, breathing society and economy into the shape of their perfect blueprint, forgetting it needs to adapt and evolve organically.
And the consequences. We saw it with Qin Shi Huang, but what about this more idealistic type?
Often just as catastrophic, sadly. Nationalizing land might provoke revolt from landowners and confuse farmers, wrecking harvests. Monopolies often stifle innovation and trade, leading to shortages and economic decline.
And the currency reform.
Disaster usually leads to confusion, distrust, hoarding, maybe hyperinflation. People lose faith in the money. Their savings can vanish overnight. It turns prosperity into poverty, stability into chaos.
So the well-intentioned plan backfires spectacularly.
Every time. Leads to suffering, unrest, often uprisings, and sometimes the complete collapse of the dynasty. This idealistic but forceful ruler becomes another tragic footnote to "he who handles it harms it." Their reckless doing, however well meant, was fatally detached from reality.
It's a powerful story. And it really does hold up a mirror, doesn't it, to that part in all of us that just wants to jump in, fix things, take control, implement our perfect plan.
Absolutely. So the challenge is, how do we take this ancient wisdom about avoiding extremes and apply it not just to empires, but to our own lives right now?
We need a practical takeaway. How do we practice this art of subtraction ourselves?
Okay, let's try a little experiment for everyone listening. Let's call it the 3 removals list. The idea is to actually experience the power of strategic subtraction this week. Think of it as clearing out some space.
All right, I'm ready. Step 1.
Choose an arena. Pick one area of your life where you feel that tension, where you know you're probably trying too hard, pushing too much, or holding on too tight. Could be work, relationship, fitness goals, how you consume news, anything.
Okay, got one. For me, it's definitely email checking, constant.
Perfect example. Now, step 2. Remove the extreme. Identify the most extreme version of your behavior in that arena. For your email, maybe it's checking it literally every 5 minutes, first thing in the morning and last thing at night.
Yeah, both of those.
Okay, so for this week, consciously pull that back. Decide on a moderate level. Maybe check only 3 specific times a day, or ban checking for the first hour after waking up. Just reduce the extreme.
Right, stop the relentless push.
Okay.
Step 3.
Remove the exorbitant. Find one non-essential luxury or unnecessary complexity in that arena and just delete it. For email, maybe it's that overly complex folder system you never really use, or the habit of crafting long, elaborate replies when a short yes or no would do. Find one piece of cognitive clutter and cut it out.
Ah, the elaborate reply. Guilty. I could delete that impulse. What's next?
Step 4, and this is often the trickiest, remove the excessive hubris. Find an area of complacency or pride related to your arena and challenge it. With email, maybe it's the pride of always replying instantly, proving how on top of things you are.
Ouch.
So challenge that. Intentionally delay a non-urgent reply, or maybe ask someone else for their input on an email you'd normally just fire off. Question that feeling of, I know best, or I must control this.
Let go of the need to be the fastest, the most controlling, okay? And the final step.
Observe and reflect. This requires that negative capability. Don't jump to conclusions. Just notice over the week what happens when you subtract those things. Does the system, your inbox, your stress levels, your focus, show any signs of self-regulating? Do you feel any more clarity or space just from not doing those things?
That's a really concrete way to try this out. Choose an arena, remove the extreme, the exorbitant, the excessive, and just observe.
It's about experiencing that Chapter 29 truth directly. The world, even our small personal worlds, often works better when we stop trying to handle and grasp it so tightly. It never really belonged to us anyway. We're just stewards. Wisdom is in the flow, not the fight.
Which brings us back to that core message, that final line that echoes throughout the chapter.
Indeed, it bears repeating. The empire is a thing sacred, which one should not handle. He who handles it harms it. He who grasps it loses it.
It's incredibly profound, but it leaves us with a really difficult question, especially today. If the world is full of real problems, injustice, suffering, environmental damage, does this philosophy mean we should just stand back and let it happen? Should we really not handle things when they seem desperately broken?
That is the burning question, the paradox at the heart of applying Taoism in an imperfect world. And interestingly, that's exactly where Lao Tzu goes next. In the following chapter, chapter 30, he pivots directly from governance to conflict to war and peace.
And what does he say about using force then?
He drops another bombshell, something that would have shocked the rulers and generals of his time. He says, "He who assists the ruler with the aid of the Tao will not conquer the empire with arms."
So ruling by the Tao means not using military force to win.
That's the radical claim. And he goes further, painting a picture of the inevitable consequences of even successful military campaigns. Where armies are stationed, briars and thorns grow. In the wake of a great army, bad harvests are sure to follow.
Wow, so it's a fundamental opposition to military solutions because of the backlash, the destruction they inherently cause.
It seems so. He sees a destructive force that ripples out far beyond the battlefield. It raises the question, why is he so against using arms? Does he believe there's a different kind of power, maybe something even sharper than a sword, that comes from a cord, not aggression?
How can the strong possibly prevail if they refuse to fight? That feels like the ultimate challenge to conventional thinking.
And that's exactly what we'll explore in our next deep dive. Lao Tzu's startling views on war, peace, and the mysterious power behind conquering without a fight.